Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to join you today, and I thank you for having me. I want to thank you as well for your leadership on these important issues. I also want to thank the Energy Action Network for hosting this summit each year and for your annual progress report, because it's essential we track our work as we address climate change. And we know the changing climate affects all of us. And the challenges ahead are great because there are no easy answers. So as we talk about statewide initiatives and do our part to reduce the use of fossil fuels, we have to realize change in behavior is hard and can cost a lot of money, at least upfront. And that's why I've been so focused on providing incentives for Vermonters to switch to cleaner alternatives, which I believe is the key to bringing folks along with us. Now, our efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions are critical. But at the same time, we know climate change is happening and having a real impact right now. So we also have to make sure our communities and infrastructure are well prepared for and protected against these current impacts. We need coordinated, thoughtful action that tackles both reducing emissions and prioritizing projects and programs with immediate and direct benefits for Vermont and Vermonters to make them more resilient in the face of our changing climate. Unfortunately, this issue has become polarized. It's something we need to focus on, especially in Vermont, because in addition to the impact on the environment and public health, our environment is essential to our economy and the quality of life that draws so many to our state. Whether it's agriculture or outdoor recreation, from dairy farms to skiing, our economy is directly tied to the well-being of our climate. We've also seen that lower income Vermonters can be more harshly impacted by the effects of climate change. This includes increased health risks for vulnerable populations and for low-income Vermonters and their housing options. For example, we saw this during Tropical Storm Irene 10 years ago. 15 mobile home parks and over 561 mobile homes were damaged or destroyed. This made up approximately 40% of the homes damaged by Irene, while they represent only about 7% of the housing units in Vermont. For all these reasons and the influx of federal funds, we've been able to significantly increase our work in this area. I proposed $200 million in ARPA dollars to combat climate change. Now, the legislators didn't agree with my entire proposal, but they did pass a budget that invests $50 million in climate mitigation measures this year, which moves us in the right direction as we transition towards long-term sustainability. This, the $50 million included nearly $7 million for electric vehicle incentives and charging infrastructure, $10 million in community level renewable energy projects to help low-income Vermonters access clean renewable energy without increasing their electric bills. We need to make sure that those who can afford to invest in the clean energy transition are not placing the burden on those who cannot. Because if electric rates become unaffordable, we'll only be creating new barriers to electrification. We also put $5 million into hazard mitigation grants, which will fund buyouts for properties that have experienced repeated flood damage but aren't eligible through FEMA. This program will prioritize projects based on economic need, with a goal of making sure we're helping low-income Vermonters transition to more resilient housing. $5 million was invested for clean energy development into the Clean Energy Development Fund to continue to expand Vermont's use of modern wood heating systems and support small-scale renewables. $20 million for weatherization, which will help improve energy efficiency in homes, which will improve health, lower energy bills, and reduce emissions. And this will also produce good paying jobs and generate revenue for the economy. These unprecedented federal funds will allow us to continue and expand these investments over the next several years. My administration will be looking to set up programs that are sustainable and provide ongoing benefits. But we're also encouraging private investment because we're all in this together. And creating partnerships with leading renewable energy producers is going to be key to our success. We need to make sure our electrical grid is up to the task as well, which we can't do with a proverbial, and forgive the pun, flip of the switch. But we know the demand for electricity will grow as more electric vehicles hit the road and more homes and businesses install heat pumps to meet their heating and cooling needs. Load management is also a key strategy for making sure the grid is sustainable and getting the most benefit out of our existing renewable assets. This will include both small and large scale energy storage and flexible interactive load management, which in turn will help keep electric rates affordable. As I mentioned, many of these energy and clean climate initiatives will also create jobs. Vermont already has the highest percentage of clean energy jobs in the country, but we can't rest on our laurels. We need to continue to invest resources where they give us the biggest bang for the buck, where they accomplish our environmental and economic goals and create more opportunity. If we do this right, I'm confident we can meet our targets. Now, I know how much work we need to do and the difficult decisions that will have to be made as a result of that work. But I know we can do it. And Vermont can continue to show the world we not only lead the way during a pandemic, but can lead the way with climate change mitigation as well. I appreciate your time today. I appreciate your efforts. Again, I look forward to seeing you in person sometime very soon. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon with your other presentations. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Energy Action Network, for organizing this summit. You know, I incredibly appreciate the work that Energy Action Network has been doing over the years. Before it was so absolutely clear what an existential threat climate change was to our well-being, to our planet, you were beating the drum of concern with practical suggestions on how we can solve this issue. And the issue now is beyond dispute. No one's denying climate change because we can't. We're suffering through floods, through fires, through drought. It's just everywhere. And you don't need me to just do the litany of horrors that are befalling us as we speak. What is the challenge is in Congress, as well as in Vermont and all around the country, moving to policies that are going to allow us to have a 100% clean energy system. That's really what the goal has to be. We have an ambitious agenda here in Congress, and I'm very grateful to the Biden administration and its team for putting front and center climate change. And they're doing it, I think, because there's now a realization, number one, that it's existential. Number two, if we do it, there's actually real economic opportunity in the creation of a stronger economy and more jobs. And number three, social and economic justice demands it. Many of the people who paid the biggest price for our failure to have a clean energy economy are lower income people in poor communities, and that's got to end. We're on the Energy and Commerce Committee as I speak, and we're considering major climate legislation that would move us to 100% clean electricity by 2035. And let me just go through what some of the top elements are. Number one, a clean electricity payment program. We have to move to clean generation. And as I mentioned, the incentives that we're providing are projected to have us with 80% clean electricity by 2030 and 100% by 2035. Clean energy tax incentives for wind and solar and storage and transmission. You have been championing that from the very beginning. Next, it's about time, we all agree, to remove the tax incentives for fossil fuels. I mean, I remember when I first got to Congress, I was reviewing that in the 10 prior years, when the energy companies had made well over $1 trillion, they were getting huge tax breaks. And you'd think the profits alone would be sufficient to keep them satisfied, but in fact, the taxpayers were piling on more through incentives. Those got to be eliminated, and we have to have incentives for clean, renewable energy. Next, clean buildings. You know, we need standards. How we build through codes that can be efficient and emphasize efficiency saves an immense amount of energy. So we have to get some standard codes that are oriented towards making sure that our energy consumption in our buildings, homes and commercial buildings, are minimized. And then finally, electric vehicles. We have to electrify our fleet. And that means charging stations, and it obviously means incentives so we can make the transition from fossil fuel-based transportation to electric and clean energy generated transportation. What's exciting to me about this is that there's enormous opportunity for creativity, for entrepreneurship, for people getting engaged in ways that help right in their own community, right in their own home, to do things that will add up to ultimately the clean energy economy that this nation in this world needs. Good luck today. I'm sorry I'm not with you in person. Thank you.
It is wonderful to join you for your annual meeting today. Well, I wish I could be there with you in person. I'm thankful to have this opportunity to speak with you virtually, and I know we will meet as a group in the near future. As speaker, I believe we can and we must shape our pandemic response and recovery measures that address multiple challenges at the same time, including public health, affordability, equity, and the climate crisis. This has been an incredibly difficult time in our nation's history, but thanks to our incredible congressional delegation, we do have an influx of federal funds and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make investments in Vermont's future that will have ripple effects for generations to come. In collaboration with the Energy Action Network, the legislature passed and overrode the governor's veto of the Global Warming Solutions Act, setting clear climate pollution targets Vermont must meet in the years to come. The Vermont Climate Council is working hard to find creative and impactful solutions to reducing our carbon footprint, and I am anxiously anticipating their report to the legislature this December so that we can hit the ground running when we return and do our work in January. The Energy Action Network report highlights some successes that we have achieved in Vermont so far. In 2018, Vermont had the cleanest electricity in the country and the second lowest rates in New England. This is good news, but we have to do much, much more to lower our carbon footprint. We have seen year after year the rise in devastating weather events, and this year, Southern Vermont has been deeply impacted. We need to work together to find solutions that mitigate the impact of climate change and set up all 14 counties to be resilient as we continue to wrestle with our climate reality. Vermont must take full advantage of this unique opportunity to accelerate the pace of our climate and infrastructure modernization work. The investments we make will do more than just cut climate pollution and begin to put Vermont on track to hitting our state's climate targets. It would also have numerous additional impacts and benefits. Efficiency and clean energy are proven job creators, and building clean and modern energy infrastructure will play an important role in supporting our local economy. We can cut Vermonters' energy use and energy bills, giving us an opportunity to make things just a little easier for those we know who are struggling most to make ends meet. We also know the public health benefits of weatherization and cleaner air. They have been demonstrated over and over again. We cannot be the Green Mountain State unless we back that up with significant investment and policy changes to ensure future generations can live and enjoy all that Vermont has to offer. We took steps in this year's transportation bill, which includes funding for clean vehicle incentives, EV charging stations, fare-free public transit, and more. This year's budget includes investments in weatherization programs, which will save people money on their monthly heating bills and make their homes cleaner and more comfortable. And we increased investments in workforce training programs for energy efficiency and green technologies. This network, all of you individuals and organizations, you are so critical to our success in mitigating the effects of climate change in Vermont. I believe that in working together, we can make truly transformative and visionary investments in the future of our state. Vermont can rebuild in a way that creates good union jobs, saves Vermonters money on their monthly energy bills, improves public health, addresses inequities, and does our part on the climate crisis. At the end of the day, our legislative work would not be possible without the help and assistance of organizations and individuals like yourselves. Your expertise and dedication to Vermont is truly inspiring, and I can't thank you enough for all that you have done. The pandemic has been one of the most difficult times in our nation's history, but Vermont would be much worse off if it wasn't for all of the collaboration and outside the box thinking that you have done to support your neighbors. Again, I want to thank you for having me here today, and I look forward to continuing our partnership as we work to create a healthier, more resilient Vermont. Please stay safe and be well.
Hello, I'm Senate President Becca Ballant. Although I can't see you in person, I know there are many friends and allies watching this video right now. Thank you for being here with me and the Energy Action Network. Thank you for the work that we're all called to do to combat climate change. It's important for us to keep our eyes on the prize and stay positive even as we feel discouraged and scared in moments. When I feel worried about the future, when I feel concerned that I might be paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, I try to bring it back to why I do this work. Of course, I know we all share our concern about the planet and for people around our state and around the nation and the world who are most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. But I suspect, like many of you, I do it for my children. Sarah, age 11, and Abe, soon to be 14. And every evening in Brattleboro, my spouse and I, we each take one kid and we take walks around the neighborhood, and we stroll and we talk in the evening light, and we notice flowers and the sunsets and the trees and the way the air smells and what our dog is smelling while he is romping through the grass. And as I think about these things now, I can't help but smile, and I feel my mind and my body able to refocus on why we do this work, why I do this work with all of you. My kids give me hope, and this network of people gives me hope. You have all committed yourselves to transforming our energy systems and tackling climate change with necessary urgency. And you also recognize that transformational change really is only possible when we all come together to do shared work. So I want to offer my sincere thanks to so many people in this network. We're at an exciting moment. We're at a really exciting moment in our climate action in our state. And we passed the Global Warming Solutions Act, and the Climate Council is doing its work to deliver an initial plan to the legislature by this December. And the Speaker of the House and I are united in our desire to see a plan that includes actionable items that we can take up in the 2022 session. And we understand that we have a unique opportunity to make sure a sizable chunk of the federal funds that we've received and some of our surplus state funds can be targeted to address the climate crisis. And I know that EAN members have been working diligently to articulate and prioritize some actions that could really benefit from these funds. So as we all continue our work, I want to highlight that it's important that we commit ourselves to trying to implement a just transition. We all need to think carefully and see who's missing in the conversations. And we have to do our work while being guided by communities that are least responsible for climate change, but are the most vulnerable to its impacts. And we really can't be caught in a fight between acting fast and acting equitably. We have to reject what I see as a false dichotomy. We have to see this as a yes and conversation and not an either or. The climate crisis and the crisis over injustice and inequality must, demand that we act together. We cannot tackle either of these without addressing the other. And despite many efforts on the parts of lots of people in this room, there are still many Vermonters who don't feel part of this conversation. What I want to say is don't give up on engaging them. We have to continue to invite them in, to hear from them, to use their perspective and wisdom and experience to guide us in our shared work. And tonight, as I head out with my kids for our evening walk, I will take a few minutes to talk with them about your work that you're doing on behalf of my kids and kids all over the state. They need to know that we are fighting on their behalf. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Onward with courage. Thank you.